साबित हुआ कि इस सारी कार्रवाई का मास्टरमाइंड एक खलीजी रियासत में रिहाइश पजीर भारतीय खुफिया एजेंसी का एजेंट और हैंडलर संजय संजीव कुमार और फौजी ये मुलविस था। संजय ने एक खतीर रकम के अवज़ शेखुपुरा के रिहायशी सलमान उसको उसने हायर किया। बैरून मुल्क से जो संजय है वो उनके साथ इस दौरान मुसलसल राब्ते में रहा। वारदात के बाद जो सलमान है वो कराची एयरपोर्ट के थ्रू ही पहले खलीजी मुल्क गया, फिर वहाँ से वो नेपाल फरार हुआ। इस वारदात के लिए बहुत खतीर रकम खर्च की और बैंकों और मुख्तलिफ ज़राए से उन्होंने ये पैसे भेजे। 9mm 30 बोर वो बरामद हुए, 125 मोटरसाइकिल भी बरामद हुई। रॉ ने एक अलहदी पसंद तंजीम उसको भी इस्तेमाल किया।
Welcome to the Global Script, where we unravel the truth with no fluff. Pakistan's counter-terrorism department just exposed an alleged Indian spy network in Karachi. Now that's a decades-long fight against the Raw's covert operation, and this time CTD's press conference shared a victory because a whole network has been busted in Pakistan for the first time. On August 23rd, 2025, the Sindh CTD, which is led by AIG Azad Khan, announced the arrest of 6 suspects tied to May 18th killing of Abdul Rahman in Matli, Badin. Now, the alleged mastermind is a Raw handler. His name is Sanjay Sanjeev Kumar, and he's based in a Gulf state. For the umpteenth time, a Gulf state has been mentioned but not named. Now, the suspects, they were led by a Pakistani guy named Salman, and he scouted the target for 5 days. Salman then fled to Nepal, but CTD seized pistols, shells, and phones and uncovered a larger terror plot which was linked to Sindh Revolutionary Army or Sindhudesh Revolutionary Army, the way they call it. Now, CTD says that the Raw funneled these funds to attack via a banking channel, and the suspects, they confessed to planning more strikes in Karachi. Now, Pakistan points to Indian media's reaction as a proof to that the Raw's hand was involved in this, but this bust shows Pakistan's resolve to counter the foreign threats with plans to raise the issue globally, because this isn't the first time Pakistan has won against the Indian espionage. Since 1970s, Pakistani forces have exposed spies like Ravindra Kaushik, aka Black Tiger. The guy infiltrated in Pakistan military in 1983. He was busted. He was jailed in 1990. We got Sarabjit Singh, who was directly involved in bombings in Punjab that killed almost 14 Pakistanis. In 2016, we caught the biggest fish of all, Kulbhushan Yadav, as I call them the Shah Rukh Khan of the spies across the world, because for the first time, a serving Indian naval officer was arrested in Balochistan for running a terror network. 2016, he was sentenced to death, but still he is alive and under Pakistan's custody. But that sends a clear message across the globe that Pakistan has a resolve to go after all these operatives who are operating in Pakistan. And India is the only state in the region which is harboring not only just terrorists, but exporting them in all the neighboring countries. And Pakistan stays as a prime target for the Indian operatives. Well, joining me now live is Brigadier Waqar Hasan Khan Sahab, who is a defense analyst, and also we are joined by Shahryar Ali, who's an independent journalist. I welcome both of you to the Global Script. Starting from you, Brigadier Saab, this is something which hasn't happened for the first time in Pakistan. In past 50 years alone, we have seen 8 different operatives, starting from Sheikh Shamim till Black Tiger, till Sarabjit, till Kashmir Singh, till Kulbhushan Yadav himself, till P. Moses. They've been involved in bombings in Lahore, in Sialkot, in Kashmir, in Jhelum, in Quetta, in Peshawar, and now it's Karachi, and not even in the mainstream. We are talking about a remote town called Matli, and they've executed a guy who was a social worker, a guy who was completely, he was totally, I would say that not in that business at all. where he could be eliminated, and that could be celebrated as an objective. So your comment on that, Vikas sir?
I think Indian research analysis is having a history of basically running murderous gangs. And they have actually, I would say, two sections. One deals with internal, suppression of dissent and even killing. I'll just, get into the internal one first. It is Gauri Lankesh, Professor Dabulkar, Professor Pansare. So these were taken out by some of the RSS shakhas, but they had definitely state sponsorship. Then we have Samjhauta Express. Now, you've already mentioned the history in Pakistan, and Pakistan has been, I think, taking its case to international community a number of times, including sharing of dossiers. When I think Gilani Saab handed over dossiers to Manmohan Singh with complete evidence. But somehow, India, since it had, I would say, some clout in the Western world, they would get away with it. Now, if you look at this case of Karachi, is very similar to what was happening. I just compared the two cases. One is against this innocent man in Badin, Matli. So you have some guy with name of Sanjay Kumar. Then he has another layer of people, and then hired guns who come and assassinate, and then they run away, and some of them are apprehended. Same, and they operate from Gulf. Very unfortunate. And then same is the playbook which was used against Gurprathan Singh Pannu in North America. It was Vikas Yadav, who was basically a research and assessing officer, and then he had frontman Nikhil Gupta. Then he hired an assassin, and then they were caught basically. And there is also involvement of Vishnu. So it's very typical playbook. The only thing is that now North America realizes, Canada and US, that India is basically now getting out of their shoes and trying to kill American and Canadian citizens. So one is that this has now become an international case of transnational oppression. I think Pakistan has, I would say, an environment where it can take this case to either international criminal court or even share the dossiers with the international community and expose, India. Unfortunately, there are four ministries, in my analysis, four ministries which are involved, the Indian four ministries. So the orders come from Doval's office, which is under PMO's office. Then you have Ministry of External Affairs, which provides logistics in Canada and North America, and I'm sure they must be doing it here. And then Ministry of Defense. You look at those 8 naval officers retired who were doing spying and were basically punished with death, but then Modi Saab had to go and beg the Emir of Qatar. And then is, of course, the Ministry of Interior, which runs the gang inside. So I would say this is an official state-sponsored terrorism, and it must be called out in the same manner. And we need to basically now expose India, especially their government, for state-sponsored terrorism.
Vikas, you have actually tried to share a lot of topics over here, and I cannot go into the detail of all of them. But two very important things which you've just mentioned. One is that India always happened to just get away with everything, with all the evidence presented to the global world, with all the neutral observers accusing India of a state-sponsored terrorism. They just get away. They just tend to get away with that. And based on what's happening after May, that Indian narrative is pinned down globally. The global powers which were once celebrating India on every occasion, they are now raising their brows. They're now having a lot of suspicions over Indian intentions. So don't you think that this is the right time that we should again call the neutral observers from across the world, from anybody who has got a reputation globally, and then we can present this evidence, just like AIG Azad has presented in front of the media. We can present such evidence in front of them and convince them that India, the way they have been accusing Pakistan of harboring terrorism, they are actually the ones who have been actually doing it for the past 50 years. Your opinion on that, sir?
I think this is a very apt time because after 10th May 1, Pakistan is a very different Pakistan. India has been exposed very badly. And if you look at the way the West now views India, basically, they were trying to prop it up as a counterweight to China, but now they got beaten from Pakistan. So it's a lot of credibility. Then, of course, there are issues. I would say that we go back 2 years when Justin Trudeau highlighted on the floor of the parliament. I think the West did realize, especially the Five Eyes, even Australia and New Zealand had the input, and UK. There was also murder of Atar Singh Khanda in UK. Then I think Rishi Sunak was the Prime Minister, so they hushed it up. But now things are changing. So I would say I'll agree that this is the right time. The iron is hot. And then, of course, there's the ample evidence. The playbook is very similar. And it's basically research and analysis wing and these, I would say, four ministries, supporting it through logistics. And then you look at, the money laundering. Even in case of Vikas Yadav, when
I'm
US
gonna come on. I'm gonna come on that on that money laundering thing later in the half. But right now, the other thing which you just mentioned previously, that this is a coordinated operation between all the ministries. Now, what we have witnessed in past many years, in past 5 decades at least, that no matter which government comes into the power, either it's Congress, either it's the progressive Congress or the far left Congress, either it's the right winger BJP or the far right winger BJP, the operatives remain the same. The process remains the same. The Taliban is sponsoring, the Baloch separatists are sponsoring the so-called this SRA, this Sindhi Revolutionary Army, is sponsoring them. The process remains the same. So, do you think that this all goes through the government, or is this something like a state within a state, or which have their own policies, their own agendas?
I think it is the more to do with states within the states, like a search analysis being, if you look at the funding, and then of course there are intelligence agencies inside, like IB is, implicated in, running death squads in occupied Kashmir, like this case of this one of the DSPs who were involved in Pulwama attack. This was being done by IB inside. For outside, it is basically search analysis, and you have a history. You look at Operation, against Sri Lanka, involvement of RAW with Prabhakaran. Then you look at Balochistan, Kulbhushan's case. So this has been going on. The only thing was that generally outside South Asia, nobody will listen to Pakistan. But now this is, I think, a different time. So that's why we can definitely expose. But this, I would say, is part of the DNA. It is in the DNA of research and analysis wing or their agencies. After BJP's rise to power or coming to power, especially after 2014, it has intensified. So that's the only difference. But if we look at, killing of dissident elements within India, this was being done, for a long time. And so I would say that now is the time that we should expose it. And there's ample evidence. The only thing is that time, we don't even push it in media. We look at Indian media. I've been going on Indian media also, and I tell them that you openly support terrorist organization, like you celebrate it. So even I think the media has to be taken to the task that you are actually actively supporting and celebrating attacks in
We
Pakistan.
all remember that the day Abdur Rahman was killed, Indian media was actually celebrating it, and the day this counter-terrorism press conference was done, even Arnab Goswami looked like Debbie Downer. I'm going to go towards Shahryar over here. Shahryar, you have been an independent journalist and you have covered this issue and you have talked about it. Tell us something more about this, that who was this guy Abdur Rahman and why was he target and what value did he have that he should be eliminated and being celebrated as high value target?
I don't think Abdul Rahman has such a value that he should be celebrated. He was a poor soul who died out of sheer Indian frustration that they have after Pahalgam, fake Pahalgam operation that they staged and blamed Pakistan. And after that, the insult that they had at the hands of Pakistan army. But what you mentioned, that poor souls like Abdul Rahman have already been killed in Pakistan over several years. And we have noticed several social workers in Pakistan have been killed in Punjab, in Karachi, and then India celebrated them as if they were some Pakistani assets, some Pakistani ISI assets. They have worked in Kashmir or they have worked in India, but they were not more than any social worker or not more than any ordinary man in Pakistan. I think he was no more than a social worker. I contacted several contacts in
Shahryar, based on whatever AIG Azad has said in that press conference, just walk us through the whole process. How did this guy Salman, who was the prime suspect in the beginning, how did this guy got connected with this Sanjeev Kumar, who was based in a Gulf country, and how did they together executed this program? Just walk us through the process.
Basically, I'll take you back to the attack on Hafiz Saeed several years ago. And if you remember, his attackers were also recruited in Gulf country. He was based in Dubai. He was imprisoned in Dubai jail, and then a raw handler, paid his fine, and then he was recruited on behalf of that. Similarly, Indian agencies are very much active in Gulf countries, and there they are, targeting poor Pakistanis. And then these poor Pakistanis are managed by Indian agencies, and then these poor Pakistanis manage to recruit Pakistanis back home. This is how Salman recruited further handlers in Pakistan. Some money was transferred through banking channel. This is very alarming. No Hawala Hundi network was used. They were brave enough to use the banking network, which was unearthed by the CTD in Karachi. So this is for the first time. Like, this is very rare in terror cases when Hawala and Hundi is not being used, but they are brave enough to use the proper banking channels. So this was one of the elements which was unearthed by CTD. So Salman was recruited by an Indian handler, Sanjeev Kumar, alias Fauji, and then Salman recruited one of his cousin Umair in Pakistan, and this is how the chain, build up, and then money was transferred for logistics, for weapons, for safe houses. This is how it all happened.
What happened on 18th May when, how this Abdur Rahman was, singled out as a target? How did this zero in into him? And why again, this guy Abdur Rahman, who as a social worker, just like you said, a guy with a religious stature in Matli as well. And at the same time, this guy, they just out of nowhere, they started associating him with Jamaatul Dawa. And they started celebrating him as if he's some kind of high value target. So how did he come into the picture during all that?
Basically, his information was provided to Salman. Salman forwarded his information to Umair, and Umair was asked to travel to Sindh and, go after him, find him, trace him down, and then hunt him down, unfortunately. But Abdur Rahman was not more than a social worker. Basically, this is a habit of Indian agencies, that they kill innocent people with a mere religious background, just a mere religious background, and then they frame them as someone who have participated in Kashmiri jihad, Kashmiri freedom fighters, but they, tend to be not more than any normal, ordinary social worker at all.
So any person with a beard and a kurta pajama can definitely be associated as a terrorist, according to the RANW. Well, Shahryar, be with us, and Brigadier Waqar Sahab, you also need to stay with us because it's time for a short break, and we'll be right back after this short break. Viewers, keep watching Ocean News. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the Global Script, and we are talking about this recent operation which is conducted by CTD, Counter-Terrorism Department in Sindh. And as Additional Inspector General Azad Khan shared in his press conference the details of this operation. But what impact does it have? What value does it have? Because most importantly, this operation hasn't just busted a whole network of local operatives who are working under RAW, but also for the first time we have witnessed something really unusual, that a Gulf country was used to transfer money to allow these guys to have financial support to carry out their operation, which resulted in death of an innocent poor soul. Brigadier Waqar Sahab, starting from you first, this isn't the first time that a Gulf country where an Indian operative was residing, it has been named. We have seen that in case of BLA or BRA, the operative is sometimes operating from Gulf country or somewhere in the West. In case of Taliban, we have also, we have reports that the operatives are usually operating from either a Gulf country or from somewhere in the Europe. And the list goes on. I can, go on for hours and hours on that. But this time a banking channel has been used. Now this is really alarming, and at the same time I believe that you need to comment on this, that what significance does it have, because terror financing has always been done through unconventional banking, through Hawala, through Hundi, but this time it has been used through a formal channel. Your opinion on that, sir?
Strategic. And just add that even corporate India has now become a huge, I would say, source of this financing. We don't know how this money laundering takes place. I'll just add Hindenburg report against Adani Group, which actually last year came out for the bombshell. And I'm sure Adani is being charged in the US. Main charge is one of it is definitely bribe, and then is the money laundering, and it is billions of dollars. Now, coming to tactical money laundering, which we are discussing, Gulf has now become, I would say, a conduit. And unfortunately, we've seen in Qatar, 8 of the Indian retired naval officers awarded death. So it means it's something which is not unknown to our brothers and the governments in Gulf that Indian research licensing does these things. Why, let's say nobody gets hold of that, or maybe we, Pakistan, needs to now get onto it and convince them with evidence that this is what is happening. And actually, it brings a very bad. If you look at FATF membership, which was meant for controlling or basically minimizing terror financing. One of the objective was basically to get hold of these Hawala Hundi or even banking channels where the money is going for terrorism. And some of the Gulf countries are very active, I would say, members in Pakistan, members than India. They have been pressurizing us. So I think it will be a very fit case for the FATF also, that you take the evidence and then you involve all the channels, present the evidence, and then maybe request the Gulf countries to not allow their soil to be used against their brothers, and especially happening assassination. But I think India, as we've discussed in the past, have been getting away with it. Like Adani could, do it for 20 years. Look at the offshore companies and how the money was flowing, where it was being, we don't know. A lot of money basically is channels to terrorist networks. We know that ORF is run by Ambani, and again, this is some very dubious, transaction of money. And then it runs, some of the best think tanks in South Asia. But we have to see how corporate India is now involved in terror financing, and all the more reason that in case they are using banking channels. So those banks should be held responsible, whether they are Pakistanis or in the Gulf countries.
Waqar sahab, I absolutely agree with it. I absolutely agree with it that yes, banks should be held responsible. Banks should be, come under strict scrutiny after this incident. But there is also something else as well. When a intelligence operative is operating in your country, and and obviously there is, they have in Gulf countries, they have a huge network of intelligence, which is penetrated to a grassroots level. And these operatives know exactly. That's what I assume, that X person or Y person is actually an operative of this country, and their movement and their people who are meeting them, that should be kept under scrutiny. So, do we have any channel of intelligence sharing with the Gulf countries? Because now is the time that we should be calling it out loud, and we should be raising this issue in front of the Gulf countries.
So I think one is definitely bilateral, the other is regional. If you look at the Islamic command, which is in Saudi Arabia, this was again created for checking terrorism. So I'm sure if you look at the overall structure, there must be something to do with terror financing also. The only thing is the Pakistan has to push its case. I'll just add the issue of Iran, because Iran had some space, like Kulbhushan Yadav operated from there. Now things have changed drastically, and research and licensing space in Iran has been squeezed very badly. And Iranians have also found out that there are reports they were collaborating with Mossad. So same is true for Gulf countries. So with this physical space, because Iran, you can travel from Iran to Pakistan physically. This has been squeezed. So I would say that now research also will be relying more and more on Gulf countries. And there is a need to push our case with evidence, and then also discuss it on the media. It should come in the mainstream newspapers. They are definitely our friends. And I'm sure Gulf countries are very, very responsible people. If you look at the discipline in the finance or even living there, there's very less political activity. When it comes to India, Pakistan, it's not allowed. So why they should allow their soil to be spoiled by death squads of search and licensing and then get a bad name? So that's where I think Pakistan has to pursue it bilaterally. Maybe raise it in the forum where in Saudi Arabia, where basically there's it's a counter-terrorism Islamic force, and I'm sure they can look into that aspect also. And then, of course, coordination with the West, US can also put a lot of pressure on the Gulf countries. There are a lot of fugitives, like I remember some Shetty who ran away from UAE. So this has been a norm, corporate India, making a lot of money and then running away from there. Basically, it's a criminal empire which needs to be dismantled.
Absolutely. Shahryar, coming towards you, this banking channel which has been used, who was the one who actually called it out, and how did this banking channel, the establishment of this banking channel, actually connected the counterterrorism department with the terrorists? Do you have the details for that?
Well, official details have not been shared yet, but let me tell you how it all started. Basically, after the killing of this Abdur Rahman, police started looking into technical evidence, which is CDR geofencing. And when some people were picked up, they were asked about the banking channels, how the money was transferred, how they were funded. So this is how during the investigations it was revealed that there was no Hawala Hundi. Actual banking channels were used. for the money transfer, for the funds transfer. This was revealed in the investigations when interrogations were being done from the people that were picked up by the CTD. So
That's what they say, that the best place to hide is to hide in the plain sight. Please go on, move forward.
yeah, so basically, the CTD has not officially yet announced which bank was used, which bank was used in the UAE to transfer the funds, and which bank was the receiver over here. But I think so. In days to come, this will be revealed. I think probably FIA will be looking into it as well alongside the CTD. So I think we should wait for some few more days for investigations to get
Shariar, if I heard it right, the AIG mentioned that these guys were able to do their recce and this whole reconnaissance for 5 days. Now, 5 days is a decent time, and if these guys were able to do the reconnaissance for 5 days, how were they able to hide it from the law enforcement agencies?
Basically, one need to realize that Badin and then Matli is a very small town. It never comes into news for such activity. We need to give some room to the law enforcement agencies as well. But then unearthing such a whole network is a commendable job as well. Such killings in remote areas of Pakistan usually go very unnoticed. You may admit, and we all see how it happens. The killings in the rural areas, they go underreported even by the media. But even if such cases are unearthed, and it has led to unearthing of such a huge network of research and analysis wing. So I think this is a commendable job.
And AIG also added that these payments and these transactions were also directed towards the Sindh Revolutionary Army, the SRA. Where did that come from?
Basically, SRA had been quite very inactive, if we see like an year ago or 2 years ago, because they had been collaborating with the liberation forces in Balochistan. And after I think 1 or 2 years, SRA name has been highlighted. So I think they've been gaining momentum as well. But very timely they have been unearthed as well, that they are once again involved in these kind of activities. Yeah, SRA had been active. They have been quite for quite a few times, but they before that they have been involved in attacks on trains in Sindh, attacks in Balochistan. They have collaborated their attacks on Pakistan Stock Exchange building, attack on Chinese consulate in Karachi. So SRA had been quiet for several months or an year, but they had collaborated with resistance forces in Balochistan, attacking on Pakistan's national assets. But I think they were quiet for a few times, but now they are back into action again.
Okay, Waqar Saab, last question, because we are really short of time, but I really want you to give your analysis for that. That all these separatist so-called movements, they ride on some political narratives, and these political narratives are usually pushed forward by some political parties, and they have an acclaim. They have people who follow them. In past 2.5 years, we have seen that these political narratives have actually mushroomed. They have coming out from everywhere, and there are people who have been pushing forward these agendas, and these agendas, they sometimes carry weight for an ordinary person. Now, how does state or the government can actually engage these people, or do you think that the only way to engage with these people is through the iron fist, or do you think that there should be a dialogue table open for all these guys?
I think this can all be covered in the realm of hybrid warfare. Some of people, make fun of it. I just tell them, even in a media workshop, I was telling the audience that if you look at the articles published on hybrid warfare in the West, it's about more than 100,000 in the last 2 years. And there are more than, I think, 1,000 books on that. So this exists. And this has definitely, if you look at if we go into detail, I think you need an entire program. So you have the informational, the terrorist, non-state actors, and then, of course, the battle of narrative. And then, of course, diplomatic warfare by the hostile state and all that, economic warfare. Now, I would say that this is part of the hybrid warfare that we have to fight comprehensively. One is, of course, denying them the space through development. Like I always say that in case there is a fisherman in Gwadar whose grandson is going to become a fisherman, so maybe we need to, basically work on that they should have the stake. If Reko Diq is going to produce gold, there should be major stake for the youth of Balochistan. And things are, I think, happening on that front. One is, of course, address the causes. The other is, these fake, I would say, like SRA. Honestly, these are basically for denying later on. The research analysis wing is, so they'll always have a front organization. At times, sometime like BLA, they'll gain some importance, but otherwise, SRA, I don't think so. It was just a name for a cover up. That in case there is a blame, then we'll say this is an indigenous thing which is happening. So I think one has to basically look at the entire gambit of hybrid warfare and deal in all the domains and definitely help the youth, especially youth of Balochistan, who considers themselves a disenfranchised, that basically they should be brought up to level of people, students in Karachi, or KP, or Peshawar and Lahore. And I'm sure things are moving in that direction. And then, of course, in the military operation, intelligence-based operation, have to continue internationally, have to do it diplomatically and legally also. Lawfare is also part of this. But we have to take our case to international forums.
Shahryar, what do you think that based on what you have heard so far as an independent journalist, what do you think that how counterterrorism department is going to take forward, and how are they going to move forward with this, all the investigations which they have done so far? And also, do you think that Pakistan as a country would present this case internationally? Do you see that happening anytime soon?
Obviously, it's the perfect timing to present it to the global media, to the international global powers, how India has been involved in cross-border terrorism. And it is not limited to Pakistan, as Brigadier Saab mentioned, how they've been involved in killing activists in Canada, in US, in UK as well. So I think this is the perfect timing. And Pakistan has seen how active they have been diplomatically, would not miss this chance. They have been performing really well diplomatically, as lately we have seen post the Pakistan-India standoff. So I think this is the perfect time, and they won't miss this chance. Secondly, about CTD, what you've asked, I think CTD is going after some more networks, and this won't stop over here because we know that the petty neighbor is not stopping with their activities in Pakistan. So hence, Pakistan law enforcement will not stop over here. We will continue to unearth more networks in Pakistan, handled and managed by Indian Raw.
Thank you so much, Shahryar, and thank you so much, Brigadier Waqar Hasan Khan. So before I say goodbye, I would like to have a personal opinion on this as well. That I personally believe, and I do believe, that there are people across the border who are good in heart, who believe in love, and who believe that the people of India and Pakistan can actually be very good neighbors without intentions of giving damage to each other. But yet there are governments, there are operatives like this who try to seed hatred among people. And unfortunately, in the past many years, we have seen that India has always been taking a lead in giving their people with war hysteria and with a lot of narrative to feed on, which actually results in a lot of hatred. Thank you so much, Brigadier Waqar Hasan Khan Sahab and Shahryar Ali, for joining us. It's really an honor. Well, that's all from the Global Script. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.